All right, welcome back to another edition of How to Find Sources Online. In this video, I'm going to show you how to find some different sources from different databases. The last video showed you how to use EBSCOhost, and ProQuest works very much the same. ProQuest has the same kinds of fields. You have to look to locate ways of limiting by date, etc., but it functions much the same as EBSCOhost. CQ Researcher is very different from either of these. CQ Researcher is actually a database of a single source. The periodical CQ Researcher comes out every week, sometimes bi-weekly in the summer, and every issue of the periodical focuses on a single topic. And because of this, they're really wonderful in-depth reports. They're usually 20 to 30 pages long. And every one of these reports provides an overview, the current situation, some chronology, important events in history, pro-con, and then more research. I'm going to go ahead up here and type in a topic. Let's go ahead and do farm subsidies. What you get is a list of issues dealing with that topic, and you could see that there were, I don't know, half a dozen issues on farm subsidies specifically and others on farm policy. Once you get into the actual PDF, you can see that there's an overview on the issues, background, which is history, current situation, which is now, outlook, which is future, and then you have sidebars and graphics that include things like key events since 1914, a pro-con section, and then more research. Every issue of CQ Researcher is organized in much that same way. So for example, the issue on autism, you can see down here the sidebar navigation has the same kinds of sections, or you can go to the PDF. When you open the PDF, you get the issues, the background, chronology, current situation, outlook, etc. And once again, this is just a really wonderful source that is highly credible, really excellent research. And once you've finished your research review and you begin working on your three-part proposal, you're going to want to look at something like this that just has very comprehensive information. And in particular, if you're struggling to deal with a pro-con aspect, or you're trying to figure out what the pro-con aspects might be, or if you're wondering about some history on a topic, this is just a fabulous place to go. So again, and one other thing I want to mention actually, when you're on this page, it'll tell you other months that there have been issues on that topic or related topics. So with any of these, you can go ahead and click legalizing marijuana. There's a recent issue, and you can see previous issues on the same or related topic. So that's CQ Researcher. I'm going to skip opposing viewpoints. I'm not a big fan of the opposing viewpoints series. I do think it tends to simplify and polarize things more than is appropriate for academic writing. Nonetheless, if you're struggling to find a position or a controversy in your topic, it's worth taking a look at opposing viewpoints to get some ideas. We're going to go instead to Gale Virtual Reference Library. Gale Virtual Reference Library is a subscription database of encyclopedias. These are what we call specialized encyclopedias. You can see there's an encyclopedia of clothing. There's an encyclopedia of American industry. There's an encyclopedia on achieving sustainability and alternative energy. Much like the others, you've got some general categories. You could click on any category. Social science includes practically everything in the world. And you can see some of the topics there. Or you can just search. So you could search, let's say you're interested in autism. You can click autism, and you'll get articles in encyclopedias. They are often edited by other people. Sometimes there's an author of an article and an editor for the book. You can see how long the article is going to be. I'm going to go in here and just open this one up and we'll see how it's organized. All right, so you can see that this looks like an excerpt from a book, and it is. It's an excerpt from this encyclopedia. The entry in the encyclopedia before autism was attention span, okay? And what's a little bit confusing to students sometimes about this type of source is that at the end of the article you have the bibliography, this is the author's sources, and the author's name. So Nathan Gottfried is not the author of the autism article. Nathan Gottfried is the author of the article on attention span. So if we go to autism and we look at that article, prevalence of autism, let me get treatments. We see the author's bibliography, and then we see the author's name at the very end. So it's important to understand how these things are organized so that you're citing it correctly. These are wonderful articles. If you're looking for the consensus view on what everyone agrees is the basic information and knowledge on a topic, subscription databases are the way to go. They are often 3 to 4 pages long, so they're not terribly useful, but they're really good background information and really good basic agreed upon knowledge on the subject. But typically the way you're going to end up citing this, and I'll go back to this so you can see, is that it's an article. Well, actually there's the author, Siegel, Brina or Brina, and then the article title is Autism, the book title is Child Development, and then this is the editor, etc. So you have to make sure that you're citing it, in this case, more like a work from an anthology. This is an article by this person in this anthology, edited by this person. Just holler if you have problems with any of those. But you can see there are tons of different articles. Some of them are 2 pages long, some of them are 6. Very few of them are going to be more than 8 or 9 pages. It's just not the nature of this type of source. So this is Gale Virtual Reference Library again. Wonderful database. I highly recommend using it. Okay, the other thing I'm going to show you is, let's see, I believe it's in reference. Down here, buried where you would likely never find it, are 2 really great things. There's the Statistical Abstract of the United States and the U.S. Census Bureau. The Statistical Abstract of the United States is no longer being actively produced, but it still has great information. Over here you can see all sorts of different topics. If you're still not sure what topic you're interested in, you might look over here and see where there is data, and then you could use that as a beginning point, really, for deciding on your topic. But if you were interested on energy consumption or energy costs, for example, you could research this. So if you were interested on prices, expenditures, and sales, you would click that, you would open the PDF, and what you're going to get is a chart, a table with, it's not really raw data, but it's very tabular. It's very statistical. So it's going to take you some time to think through what it actually means. You've got fossil fuel prices by type. You've got energy supply and disposition by type. Again, this is not the kind of thing you would want to use in your research review, but it could be very helpful in your long research paper and in your 3-part proposal. If you were interested in manufacturing, if you were interested in changes in the population, maybe you're interested in income, wealth, and poverty, you can look at household income by race, median income by race, distribution of income level, and selected characteristics. So we can go there and see what kinds of characteristics. So we have the household income with ages of people, with the region of the country, number of people in the household, type of household, education levels. All of this stuff is really interesting. again, once you know that you're looking for a particular kind of statistic, this is a great place to go. All right, one last place that I want to show you is the U.S. Census Bureau, which is now collecting much of this information that used to be at the Statistical Abstract. I don't find it to be as useful in terms of its setup, but nonetheless, you can search things here. So this census website has a bunch of wonderful information. You've got, again, topics, so you can look by topic, families and living arrangements, income and poverty, health, business, education, or once again you can search. So you could type in any topic, aging and income, and just see what kind of information they've got. So they've got information on the social and economic impact of aging, characteristics of our nation's 55,000 centenarians, those are people over the age of 100, any number of things that you could research here. But this is a good place to go once you know that you need a specific type of information, like let's say gas prices. You could click that, you could get this takes us back to the Statistical Abstract, which is fine. Sales prices, some of this stuff is not right. So you might need to try some of our Boolean logic and Boolean operator information, put in quotation marks, gas prices, and see what we get. That is better, but I think probably if we change that word to fuel, we'll have better results. All right, there we go, much better. And this will give us some information that we could use if we were writing a paper on the amount of money that people spend on various fuel types, or by various type of transportation. What percentage of our fuel is used for jet fuel, light duty vehicles, transportation like heavy duty, long wheelbase trucking and transportation. These could be interesting things to look at if you were talking about alternative energy. You can't run a tractor trailer, at least yet, on electrical drivetrains, but you can on natural gas and on diesel. So those are something that you might end up wanting to write about, the importance of including biodiesel and natural gas as part of our automotive and transportation sector fuel strategy. So again, these are all available from the Clark website. I got to this location by clicking reference sources, and the other was articles and databases. And again, EBSCOhost, ProQuest, CQ Researcher, Gale Virtual, and then Statistical Abstract and the US Census. All right, these are all great sources to look into. I know you guys are going to find great information. If you need help understanding what you found, or if you have trouble locating the right kind of information, that's a wonderful use for the Writing Lounge. Go to the Writing Lounge and ask for some assistance, and one of your classmates or I will be glad to help. All right, talk to you later.